Uh, so first of all, I welcome you all on behalf of Rian and FTBC to our webinar series. Now, some of you who are not familiar with these partner company, then I'll just give you the quick introduction of these partner companies. So basically, FTBC or FTB Communications Private Limited. Uh, so we are language service providers and we deal in more than 70, 80 languages and in the multiple language services. And Rian is basically a platform, translation platform built by our translators, and it is built for translators. And now, basically, we have developed this platform further, and now it is a comprehensive translation management system. So these two partner companies work together to give you the best of the quality of work in this particular business. Uh, Now, this is our second session in this set. Uh, Hope you have seen this slide. There are 7 topics. So we have started with the first topic, which is technology in translation in the last week. Uh, and now we'll move on to the second topic, which is MTP. So if you are not there, if you are not there in the first session, so basically we discussed about the possible usage of technology at different steps of translation process life cycle. So how technology can be beneficial at every stage. So that was the basis of the discussion which was happened in the last week in the first topic. Now we'll move on to the second topic, which is MTP. MTP stands for Machine Translation Post Editing. Now, in the last few years, this MTP requirements are now trending very much. And if you see the next slide, uh, so basically the estimated translation industry size by 2021 would be somewhere around 56.18 billion. And interestingly, MT share will be around 1.5 billion. So basically, you can see the trend for using MTP is ever increasing. So we thought this could be an interesting topic for discussion. And MTP is just not the simple process which you can just acquire and go on about it. So we thought we could discuss this in more detail, and it could be possible only if we have subject matter experts, domain experts, experienced linguists who are there for more than 25, 30 years in this industry. So they can give us better insight of this particular trend. So I guess we'll begin with uh, the, the definition of MTP and the different aspects related to MTP at first. And for that, I would request Salil to just take over this discussion further and help everyone to understand the basic concept of MTP. So over to you, Salil.
Okay, sure. Yes, thanks a lot, Nikhil. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, hello all. Welcome to this second webinar in the series. Today we'll be discussing about machine translation post-editing. And I'll be talking more on the practical side, what MTP is about, and some issues involved in it, and the advantages, and as well as what technology is helping us to do post editing in a better fashion. So, kind of a SWOT analysis of post editing itself. Okay. Nikhil has already introduced to us the business opportunity in post editing sector. So as you can see, machine translation share is estimated to be 1.5 billion. Well, if you consider it against the total translation industry size, then it doesn't sound to be very attractive. But again, we cannot ignore this 1.5 billion number. And then when we talk about machine translation, then invariably we also need to start talking about post editing. Okay, so today we will see what post editing is and some other aspects related to it. So I'll move on to the next slide. So I know you probably hate machine translation. We all used to hate machine translation. If you ask me, then I personally also used to hate machine translation. And then I always thought that machines are just not going to do anything. Okay, human beings are always superior, and machines will be there to a certain extent. They will be there, but they can't do anything in the language field. Is what I used to suppose, think. 5 years, maybe 10 years back, right? And then slowly and steadily, I kept on monitoring, watching the progress that is happening in the machine translation field. And now I'm awestruck. So um, I sometimes, in fact, get better output from a machine compared to human translators. So, well, that's I don't know whether it is a fortunate thing or unfortunate thing, but the fact is that machines most of the times are now giving me consistent results and good results, and I know what to expect from a machine, and I do get that. But the same thing I cannot say about a human translator. So, well, I'm not denying the importance of a human translator. I myself am a translator. I mean, one of my jobs is translating, so I very well understand how difficult this job is and how respectful this job is. And I do want us all as translators to develop as translators. So I don't want machines to take hijack our jobs. That's not the case at all. But the thing is, we should start appreciating what machine is trying to give us, okay, as far as translation is concerned, and take that help, and in fact, help ourselves to grow our business. And that is very well possible, because machine translation post editing is now becoming a booming sector, okay, in itself. And unless we make ourselves ready for it, then there will be many lost opportunities for us. Of course, traditional translation will be there, but slowly and steadily it will be taken over by machine. And so unless we have that mentality, we have that thinking ability, or the mental readiness of becoming a post editor, we may not be able to cope the changes. So it basically all starts from inculcating that mentality. Okay, so I it won't be an exaggeration if I say that 5 years down the line, or maybe 10 years down the line, the word translator may also cease to exist. I don't know. That can be an exaggeration actually, but everybody will be termed or called will be called post editors. Okay, and it will in fact be a very highly respected job profile, post editors. So I want us all to become post editors. Okay, I myself am trying to become a post editor, okay, which also involves, thankfully, translating and reviewing. So I'm thoroughly enjoying my job whenever I do post editing. And that's the reason why I want to discuss all those possibilities and opportunities with you all. So let's not head empty. So we see a lots of posts that keep on ridiculing the machine translation, but the problem is only negativity gets spread actually. So we never get any post regarding how well a machine has translated something. Okay, so we should in fact start circulating those posts as well, such that people who really want to become post editors get benefited, and then they also get boosted out of such posts. So, well, I know we all probably used to hate or hate MD, but let's not do that, because there is a strong reason behind it. Why? One is machine. There are a couple of reasons. So why machine is improving. Secondly, don't we? When you review documents, for example, I'm sure when you also must be reviewing documents of the. Hello. Yeah. So I hope you also must be reviewing documents translated by your peers, right? In your company or wherever. So you do review documents that are translated by human beings, right? So it's not that only the documents that are translated by machines need to be reviewed. Even the documents translated by human beings need to be reviewed. You cannot circumvent that process. So in fact, that's a very crucial part of the entire translation life cycle. So let's keep that in mind. We do that. And secondly, are we actually happy reviewing those documents? Most of the reviewers are very, very, very frustrated actually. Okay, so keep aside the machine translation. Even the translation done by human beings is what we are talking about. Reviewers are particularly not ready to review documents. They in fact say that, well, I would rather like to start from scratch or translate from scratch. Okay, that is already a feedback regarding human translation either. So then what's harm in using machine in that place? So that's the complete point, the main point that I want to convey today. Okay, and while we do that, what opportunities we have and what advantages machine translation and post-editing has, we will discuss that. Okay, so let's accept that, well, we do review human translation and we are not always happy with the quality that we get even from human beings. Okay, so now about machine translation itself. There has been a great evolution. Okay, machine translation itself has evolved a lot. So we started talking about machine translation, which was rule-based. Okay, so rule-based machine translation, which was mostly grammar-based, maybe. And then we started talking about a hybrid model. Okay, where it was rule-based as well as, and then some corpus-based. Practical examples were recorded of natives, for example, and that started becoming the base of machine translation. So a hybrid model came up, and now we are discussing NMT, for example, right? Neural machine translator. And all that evolution we have seen. But as a translator or maybe as a post editor, we may not be, interested in those evolutions. Well, fine, we know that the evolutions are there, but then what should we do, right? So machine, the only thing that I want you to appreciate now is that the machine has evolved and something has happened in the background, okay, which you may not need to know that, okay, how the evolution was from a simple machine translation rule based to NMT. Even if you don't know, you should be at least in position to take the advantages that the NMT is now giving us. Okay, so the only thing that we need to know is that there are three things. So machines have drastically improved. Nobody can deny that fact. Okay, then we will see the quality of a machine later in this presentation. Then machines will keep on improving. Nobody can deny that fact because a change is the only constant, as you know. So machines are not going to stop here. They are already almost there. So now I'm looking forward to the further development in the translation field as far as machine translation is concerned. So machines will keep on improving, and then we can help machines improve. Okay, so so not only engineers are going to do that. Linguists like you and me are in fact going to help the engineering side to help the quality of the translation, because machines need input and they need input in different ways. And when we review something, for example, when we suggest a better translation, for example, or we suggest a particular correct syntax in that particular language or a domain specific things, then what we are in fact doing is we are not just doing limiting our review or corrections there and there itself, but now it is becoming a huge data. As you know, now this data is going to become the oil, right, for future. So for machines as well, our data, our review data is going to become the oil. Okay, and based on that oil they are going to run. So it is the onus lies on us now to help ourselves in future as well. So we can help machines improve. Great. So again, that was a point that I wanted to make here. Let's go to the next slide. I quickly tried to, come up with a comparison between human and machine. Again, this is pertaining to translation, okay? Not generic, but pertaining to translation alone. So human translation, machine translation. Red, everything is a disadvantage, and green is an advantage, as you can guess, right? So human translation can be erratic, right? I really cannot, bank on the human translation sometimes, unless that human being is somebody who I have been working with for 10 years, 15 years. Only then I can expect some consistent quality. Okay. Even in that case, sometimes moods are there, and there are many external factors that impact human translation. So sometimes, or many a times, human translation can be erratic. As against that, machine translation can be very consistent, right? Machine, once it learns something, that then it will every time give the translation the same way. Okay. Then human translation, the positive side is it can be creative. So for some creative genres, we of course need human beings. But when we compare this with machine, then machine translation is formulaic actually. So although it is not creative, machine translation is very formulaic, and that's the biggest advantage, or one of the biggest advantage just a machine has. So once, say for example, and that's the reason why, like genres like or the areas like legal translation for that matter, or patents for that matter, they may be very difficult for a human being to translate, but for machines they become very easy, because inherently those formats or the way these are written are very formulaic. So machines are happier to translate such documents. Okay. Then performance limitations are there, and then if, even after learning a particular thing, human being may not produce the consistent result. Human beings are definitely slow as compared to machine. Okay, how slow we can see later in a couple of slides. And then a possibility of mistranslation always is there. Okay, in case of even a human being, and even in case of a machine, of course, possibility of mistranslation is there. There they are at par maybe. Reading between the lines, of course, human beings can do that better. So that again falls into the category of creativity maybe. But in case of machine, understanding context was not possible till recently. Okay, but now machines are now capable of understanding the context as well. So we will discuss that part as well in the technology thing. Okay, so machines are now understanding context as well. So if you make a change in a particular sentence for a particular context, then machines will definitely learn that, and then will try to help you do the same change in the similar context or the same context otherwise as well. So, and all other things, as you can see, are in green on the machine side. So if you just count the count of greens, then on the machine side it has 5 greens actually, and on the human side it has 2 greens. So straight away, for me at least, machine is winning here as far as speed is concerned, consistency is concerned, and finally desirable, acceptable quality is concerned. So I definitely give more marks to machine. Okay, particularly when we start talking about volumes and also quality and speed and cost. Okay, so from all these angles, machines win, is what I now think. Let's go to the next slide. So, well, we talked about time and cost and quality. Okay, so what is the solution for that? So machine is one of the solutions, of course, but machines alone cannot do anything, and that's the beauty of it. So it has to be a hybrid model. So machines and human beings, and we human beings, and that's the reason why we are here. Machine is there, and today we'll be discussing the solution part of it, that is machine translation post editing. Okay, so post editing will help you. This is an eternal problem, right? I mean, this trident, or whatever you call it, I mean, this triangle is an eternal problem before anybody. I mean, businesses. So they want everything fast. They want everything at a lower cost than yesterday, and they want everything at whatever best quality they can get for, right? So that has been the demand, and the traditional human translation model has miserably failed actually doing that. So if you want quality, then time and cost need to be compromised, and all such things, right? You know, like all these 3 things cannot coexist. Only 2 things can coexist at given any given point in time, right? So, but machine translation PE probably makes the coexistence of all these 3 things possible. Let's see how. So first, let's talk about types of PE. Okay, so what types of post editing do we have? We have a light post editing, and then we have full post editing. In light post editing, of course, we will dig a bit deeper in this, but just to highlight, light post editing, if we think from the quality and usability or use perspectives, then quality should be understandable. Okay, so when a light P is expected, then what is expected is, okay, well, if I understand what the translation is or what the source was, then I will be happy. I will not be more fussy about the style and etc. Right? So, okay, I understood the message, I'm happy. So that is the quality level expected of a light P. And where is it? Where this light P used? Particularly, most of the times it is used for inbound processes or the documents that are not publicly published, right? So maybe some specifications documents that you need to quickly browse through. But I mean, there shouldn't be any wrong translation or omission for sure. Okay, it should be understandable. But still, PE is usually done for outbound processes or outbound documents or material, right? Then full P, the quality expectations are stylistically good. It has to be stylistically good. So style has two things. One is the domain specific style as well as other styles like formatting and all such things. So P involves that. And use, as you can guess, it is inbound plus outbound. So it can be a very well publishable document. Okay, and so you can go ahead and publish it anywhere. So full P requires that thing. If we compare the time required, okay, for light P and full P. So this everything is based on my personal experience and then my discussions with people who have been doing PE professionally. So my experience also has been that. So time required for light PE is somewhere around 2/3 of usual review time. Okay, so if you usually take 8 hours, then it will take the 2/3 part of it for doing light PE. So again, you are saving on time right now. Then full PE, the same time as usual is required for a full PE. So if you are requiring 8 hours for doing a review of a human being, okay, of a particular quality, then in case of machines as well, the same time as usual review is required, and sometimes, fortunately, lower than that. But it is definitely not more than that. Okay, so and most of the times, in fact, it is lower than that. But to be on the safe side, I have written it as the same as usual review time. Okay, so but in case of light P, is straight 2/3 of usual review time. Fine. So that is the time required, roughly. Now let's talk about types of P. So light P and full P. What exactly do we need to do in light P, right? Then so correcting grammar, of course. Then content matching. So checking for coverage, everything has been translated or not, and then checking for proper nouns. So we basically need to check for, land names or country names, for example, or shop names or brand names or all such things. So checking for proper nouns. So for such things, we need to have that list in place, but you need to check for those things. Then checking for numbers, of course. So numerical mismatches and all such things, you need to check for them. And checking for DNTs. So do not translate segments or elements, right? And again, for this, you need to have your own list beforehand. And the beauty is that many of these things can be automated, either in their pre-processing phase or in their post-processing phase. So what is that? We'll briefly discuss later. So these are the things that we typically do in light P. Okay. So still we are calling it light P by the way. Okay. So all that needs to be done in light P. And in full P, we need to correct unnatural expressions. Okay. So again, light P doesn't expect us to correct unnatural expressions. For a native reader, if a light P done document is given, then the native reader will sometimes find some expressions unnatural. Okay. But the user knows that, well, this is a light P document, so the expectation was anyway set already, so not an issue as such. But in case of full P, then those unnatural expressions also need to be corrected, and those need to be brought to the level of naturality, right? And then secondly, context check is. Yeah, so I got a question. DNT, what is DNT? I just explained it. So it is do not translate elements. Okay, so there are many times elements that need not be translated. It can be, I mean, culture specific things do not translate, or sometimes they can be specific to a particular company or industry. Okay, so they need not be the proper nouns as such. Okay, but in that particular company or in that particular culture, okay, these things need not be translated. So that thing needs to be taken care in light PE. Okay. Okay. So, and now coming to full PE, we talked about natural expression, unnatural expression, sorry. And secondly, context check, logic check. Okay. Fortunately, in light PE, we need not keep on keeping a track or an eye on whether the translation is logical or not. Okay. We just need to, so in light PE, it's quite, I mean, segment to segment. Okay. So it is comma to comma in a way, actually. So if you just go on checking comma to comma, and if you satisfy A to E in a light PE, then the translation will be okay. But in case of full PE, then you also have to check context or logic check. Like right now you are translating one particular segment, but then you realize that, I had translated, or the translation was something else in the segment that was somewhere above there. Okay, so that kind of interrelationship between segments is very, very important. We need to keep an eye on that in a full PE thing. Okay, and then style changes, as I said earlier. So these styles can be, I mean, document styles like font, indentation, and then domain specific registers as well. By register, you mean you know what a register is, right? I mean the vocabulary or the terminology used in that particular domain. So that also falls in the style category, right? So where paracetamol is required, you cannot keep on using, say, for example, crocin or a painkiller, for example, or such things. Huh? So then you have to use a particular register for that. So that also falls under the style category. But fortunately, that is not expected in light PE. Okay, so if a machine translates is like crocin, then you can keep it crocin, no problem. The end user will understand it that way. Okay, so that was a quick example, for example. So, well, types of PE we discussed a bit, and then let's move on to the next slide. So we discussed this slide earlier, right? We said that time required for light PE and full PE is so and so. And in case of full PE, we most of the times require the same time as usual review time. Then what is the advantage? I mean, what is the advantage? Can be the question. So what is the PE advantage? Let's think from two angles. One is review cost. Okay, so review cost and time, it remains almost same as usual. So if you are getting an X amount for doing, I mean, reviewing a document translated by a human being, then you will keep on getting the same amount. Okay, sometimes in fact you can get more amount. Okay, more cost for that, so more payment for that. But well, usually it is the same. Okay, so review cost doesn't change, almost same as usual, and time also doesn't change, as we saw. Secondly, if we talk about translation cost, then the picture changes actually. Okay, so in case of translation, what has happened is there is almost 90% reduction in the translation cost. So which is a huge reduction actually, if you see. Say for example, if typically a company has, say for example, 1 rupee, okay, budget for translation, I mean 1 rupee for 1 word, okay, or 1.25 rupees, for example, for 1 word. Then typically if you go for MT, machine translation, then there will be definitely somewhere around 90 to 92% reduction, and you can deliver translation alone at somewhere around well 12 to 15 paisa per word. Okay, and then you add this review cost to it. But again, as you can see on the translation front already, there is a huge reduction. So there is a huge reduction in the overall cost now. And what is the time saved? So there are two things on the translation front. It's not just about the cost of the translation, because you did not just pay that much to the translator, but you also save the time. So yeah, I'll come to that. Yeah, so how much time can be saved, say for example? So 2/3 of the time can be saved is what our experience has been. I mean, not just our, but industry wide. Okay, Today, I have taken an example of English to Japanese translation. So E to J means English to Japanese. Okay, it's a random example actually, but again based on our experience. So E to J, English to Japanese. If you go on translating, say for example, 10,000 words, okay, of English into Japanese, and that too of a domain, a legal domain for that matter. Okay, some contracts. Then usually you take 24 hours to translate that. So that is straight 3 days actually. So if you say daily you work for 8 hours, then straight 3 days you take to translate that. Okay, in a natural, I mean, in a traditional human pattern. So 24 hours, including review. Okay, so including review, you will take 24 hours. Or sometimes including review, it may take more hours as well. But 24 hours for sure, at least. By applying this MTPE model, so you get basically 10,000 words translated in a couple of minutes, maybe 3 to 4 minutes. So first you get a draft translation there, which is of quite good quality. What that quality is, we will see later. Okay, quite good quality, and so you can deliver the translation in about 8 hours. This also I have kind of estimated on a bit higher side. Actually, we could manage it in 6 to 7 hours. So I in fact want to say 6 to 7 hours, but well, 8 hours. So one day I'm giving to it. So that is the huge time reduction, okay, as well. So time saving, and it's not just theoretical. It has been a practical saving. Okay, and it's not just about delivery, but delivering a satisfactory delivery, right? So client has in fact appreciated the quality. So that much advantage is there in PE right now. Let's go to the next slide. Now let's talk about some examples of PE. Okay, so PE is what kind of strengths and weaknesses first. Let's talk about strengths and weaknesses of PE. Okay. I'm not sure if everybody understands Japanese here. There can be translators from other language domains as well, fields as well. But you did not understand Japanese. Okay, that's fine. Those who understand Japanese will be able to appreciate this example more maybe. But even those who do not understand Japanese, for them, I'm going to explain what I'm trying to say. Okay. So we have two kinds of examples in front of us right now. Okay, and these are machine translated examples. So now I want to show you how much time can be saved actually. Okay, so typically to translate these two examples, okay, so it was raining cats and dogs is one example. Again, these two examples are not related to each other. Okay, they are completely from different domains. So it was raining cats and dogs is just a phrase, an English phrase, as you know. Okay, and then we have a bit serious translation. I mean, source for translation. So as you can see, it's a very winding sentence. Okay, and it is from a legal domain. So from a contract maybe. So during and after the participant's employment with the company. So there are so many relative sentences maybe, or it's a packet sentence basically with so much nesting right in it. And it in fact for a human being who is not proficient in translating such domains, it becomes very difficult for the human being to first understand where to break things and what is related to what, and then secondly also ensure that nothing is missing. So on both the fronts the human brain needs to work a lot, and there is a lot of calorie consumption in there for sure. So machine, what does here now? Let's see. So these are the actual machine translated examples. Okay. So in case of it was raining cats and dogs, the machine has failed miserably actually. Okay. It is actually saying that in Japanese as well, it is saying that it was raining cats and dogs. So it has failed to understand what raining cats and dogs means. Okay. So it has translated literally. Okay. So do I accept this translation? No. So it's a complete failure. But again, if I take a holistic view, okay, of this translation, then I do not want to accept this translation. I'll just throw it away. Okay, I'll show it a dustbin. But now this is the area where the post editing mentality needs to be inculcated. Okay, for me, any saving is a saving actually. So any penny saved is a saving. I mean, for me. Okay, and I calculate it as my profit because my time is saved, my physical efforts are saved, and so everything. So any saving. So for me, say for example, right now what has happened in Japanese, these first three what should I say? I mean, characters. Yeah. So first three characters are wrong. Okay. But fortunately, everything after that is correct. Okay. So entirely, while this sentence is meaning rubbish, it means nothing. Okay. Irrelevant. But if I take a mathematical approach, an analytical approach, and a self-helping approach, then what I am convinced is okay, just by changing first three characters, I'm going to get a fine translation which will be perfectly acceptable. So I'm just going to change the first three characters in Japanese. So those who know Japanese, maybe, and even not first three, actually first two, because the third one is anyway a particle which is a part of grammar and it's perfectly there. So in fact, the percentage of wrong translation is even lesser. So first two characters, I'll just change it to doshaburi, for example, right, in Japanese. So I'll just say doshaburi no ame ga futte mashita, and that will start meaning a perfect. It will start making a perfect sense. So what I did is the first impression was wrong, of a wrong translation, so I was not happy. But when I convinced myself, no, everything is there. In fact, I just need to change the first two characters and everything will be just in place. So I now have started appreciating the help that this translation is giving me. I took it, changed only first two characters, went ahead. Time saved. Okay, I'm happy. Secondly, now beautifully, the second translation, okay, I can take it as it is actually. So unless there are some stylistic things need to be done. Okay, but on a light PE stage or level, I'm already happy with the translation that the machine has given me, and the machine has beautifully retained everything. There is complete coverage. So I just need to see that the coverage is there and all the grammar is in place and nothing is missing. And beautifully now the machine has used some domain specific words as well. Okay, so say for example, transfer any confidential information, for example, right? So copy or transfer any confidential information. So in a legal domain, this transfer needs to be translated in a certain way, so which a human being may not know how to translate. But the machine has done it very, very wonderfully well. I mean, so say for example, okay, so this part, right, has been translated so very well by the machine, and even this part actually, right, this part. So I'm already happy with this. I have saved a lot of time. I'm happy. So this is the strength of the translation. This, if you count as a weakness, it will be weakness, but it is half weak, it is half strong already. Okay, so the glass is half full anyway, right? I'm happy, and here I'm very, very happy. I'm elated actually. Okay, so this is the strength of machine. Machine translation, and post editing will not take much time. Yes, now Nitin, I want to take a small pause here, and if we could uh, ask or request Chandu Kale sir to share his practical examples. Experiences regarding post editing.
Yes, sure, Cyril. Thank you.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
just need to check whether Kaya sir are there still in the call. I guess they got another call.
Oh,
That
okay.
Yeah. So Kaya sir, are you there? Okay, Cyril. What we can do is we can take this slide
Sure.
at the end.
Okay.
Meanwhile, we can check with the audience if anyone from them has worked on MTP before, and if they want to share some experience individually, how they basically performed, what was their uh, thoughts about MTP as such. So anyone from the audience, if they want to share their experience, uh,
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. Yes, Nikhil. Fine. So I'll keep
Hello.
myself. Yeah, I'll keep myself on mute. If anybody wants to share their experience, please go ahead.
Hello.
yes,
Lakshmikant here.
yeah,
Can
please.
you hear
Hello,
me?
Lakshmi.
Yes.
Yeah. I have been in translation field for almost 30 years. Initially,
Okay.
when we started this machine translation, that time we had the tool of Atlas. and Atlas was not having enough vocabulary in its uh, uh, database. So translation was absurd most of the time. And then we started thinking that, okay, if we can build up a new glossary for Atlas, then it will help. Gradually, we came to know about so many CAT tools. So those CAT tools are going to help because we keep on building a new vocabulary always, which keeps on repeating in future translation, and that helps a lot. So
Yes.
compared to 20 years back, now this machine translation quality has improved a lot, as told by Mr. Salil before. That's true. If we keep on adding there in future, it will be more accurate up to our expectation. That's all I want to say from my side.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Great. Thanks a lot. That was reassuring. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Gayatri.
Okay.
So I'm working in entity data for more than 18 years now, and I have used Rian for translation, machine translation. So I'm regularly doing the post editing job, and I'm very happy with it. So as Salil Sensei has rightly said, it definitely reduces the time and efforts.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. So,
Yeah, thank you.
yes, that's again a very reassuring statement. Yeah, thank you, Rima. Thank you. Yes, Nikhil. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes. Yes.
This is Kshama here. I'm from Goa. I've been using Rian since October last year, and like Salil said, I mean it's made life quite easy. The whole machine translation feature that is embedded in it, and definitely reduces the work time that I spend translating. And I have been using it regularly now since then, and it's fabulous. So absolutely no problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks.
Yes. Anyone else? Okay, Salil. Salil, over to you. I guess you can continue with the.
Okay, sure. Great. Okay. Thank you, Nikhil. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just go back. Okay, I'll just go back to the earlier slide bit and then go to the next one. Yeah, okay. So I muted somebody, sorry. Fine. So as you can see now, what do you need? Okay, what skills do you need actually to become a post editor? So there are two skills. One is the core skill of language itself, of course, and then secondly, you should start believing in yourself or the machine as well. Okay, so it's all starts there. So getting convinced, and then only if your language skills are properly in place, then you can become a post editor, because otherwise you will start believing everything in what the machine has translated for you, and that can be a very, very risky thing as well. Okay, so while we are advocating the usage or using machine translation, we are not saying that everything that a machine translates is correct. So you should be in position linguistically, okay, language wise, to take a call and to evaluate the quality of that machine itself. Okay, so it needs some experience of at least 3 to 4 years experience of a proper reviewer before you shift your career to post editing. So immediately you cannot do that. Okay, that thing one needs to keep in mind. So particularly new people who immediately start using Google Translate, for example, or any other translator for that matter, what they do is they take in everything blindly, and they start believing that everything that machine has translated for them is there for their use, and they can use it blindly. So let's not do that. Okay, particularly about PE, right? So at least these things, like at least whatever is mentioned again under light PE, okay, you should be in position to do those things, and it requires a lot of practice as well. I mean, PE, it's not that overnight you can become a post editor. Okay, so for me, it took around 3 to 4 years to start comfortably saying that I can do post editing. And after maybe 10 years, I'm in front of you and saying that, well, post editing needs to be done like this and that, and what everything is required. So before that, I wouldn't have had any guts to even talk about post editing. Okay, so learning is involved in this, and we want to, roll out a course as well in PE. So we have a nice course in PE how to practice doing post editing. So at some opportunity in near future, if you could start learning that as well. Okay, that also can be online, and then let's see how we can go about it. Okay, we'll keep you all posted. But like learning PE, we have a course in place. We'll do that. Okay, great. So now we'll go to the technology in PE. So what is technology? How is technology helping us in PE? Well, machine translation is already helping us. So machine translation itself is technology. But even in post editing, which is the territory of a human being, even there you can take advantages of technological development. Okay, and day in, day out, engineers are working on these things, and linguists and engineers together, they are trying to come up with fascinating features, okay, that exist within a CAT or outside a CAT, and all those together help a human being to do even PE in a better manner, faster. Okay, so even PE can be done faster now. So what are those? So one is CAT level pre-processing. So source analysis. So many CATs now, Rian will also soon have such features. So CAT level pre-processing. So source analysis, including improvement suggestions. So first, the source itself is analyzed whether it is ready for post editing or not. I mean, machine translation or not. Okay, and how much post editing effort will be required. So the user who uploads the file will get that kind of a report, and then going one step ahead, even suggestions are given to the user. Like these suggestions can be on multiple fronts. So these can be register related suggestions, like domain specific vocabulary related suggestions, as well as segmentation suggestions. Okay, so not all documents are segmented properly or formatted properly, but now machines are becoming in their pre-processing phase smarter and smarter to understand the segmentation issues as well. And they will create a report and tell that, well, if you work on these segments, we find that these segments probably will create a problem for a machine to translate. So please go ahead and do a resegmentation, and then once you are done, you are happy with the segmentation, reload it to the machine. Okay, so at least that help. Now machines are already in place and will be more in place, position to offer to the post editors. So that will definitely first improve the quality of translation itself, machine translation, and then of course and obviously needless to say, PE will also be more efficient. Secondly, domain specific phrasal databases. So many CATs, well, again, as I said, it may be within or outside the CAT, but now domain specific phrasal databases are getting created. And these databases can be on segment level or on a particular vocabulary level, terminology level. So these databases are getting created and auto replaced as well. So even before a machine translates it, or it becomes an integral part of a machine itself. But if your machine exists otherwise from your CAT, then it can be a part of your CAT itself. And so all such things can be taken care by a CAT in the first place. And then the machine, if translates such segments which are better ready for machine translation, then the output of machine translation itself is very, very good, and PE becomes efficient and easier. So CAT level pre-processing is being taken care of now. Most of the CATs do that. And then secondly, automated QC checks. So now QC, so the pre-processing was kind of the earlier phase, right, before doing PE, and now we are talking about something after we do PE. So automated QC checks, we have domain specific QC checks, language specific QC checks, user specific QC checks. Earlier we saw that, well, sometimes there are DNTs, for example, do not translate segments or elements. then the QC checks are now there where you can upload your own checklist. As I talked a bit about this feature in the technology webinar as well, right? So now QC checks can take that care and then help the post editors to verify that everything that was expected of a PE has been done or not, right? So all those helps are now there already in place in most of the CADs, in other tools as well, right? So yeah, precisely that is what I or we wanted to present before you, and then so the business aspect of it, then what PE is all about, and then what advantage it has, what weaknesses it still has, and on the technology front, what is going on. So this was an overview, and now, as I said, we definitely want to lead this to something more concrete, that is MT and PE training itself. So about that, how we can go about, we can discuss separately later. Okay. So yes, so I love post editing. Do you is the question. So in the audience, well, I don't want to. I mean, we didn't want to make this a unilateral thing. So it needs to be, I mean, multilateral. So whatever your experiences you have more, we heard to a couple of them already. So if you have anything more to share, please go ahead. If Kale sir is there now, I wish he could also
Yes,
share his experiences. Yeah.
yes, Kaya sir.
Yeah.
So Kaya sir, could you share your experiences in particularly in MTP domain, and if you want to share something else related to language industry, then we are keen to hear that as well.
Are we able to hear Kale sir's voice? I am not able to hear.
Sorry, I have now unmuted myself.
Oh, sure. Okay, now you are clearly audible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So it was very quite an eye opener to hear about MTPE. I mean the post processing after PE. I have always wondered what these guys do. They're sitting there, and how do they integrate the output that the PE translators do, and how the database enhances itself. This is a very interesting process, and earlier I had participated in something like this some years ago when they were trying to it was a very vague process. It was a very big court case between two chemical giants, and there were lakhs and lakhs of PDFs. So they had given it to somebody to convert that into editable files. Then some part of it had come to me, saying that I should translate that and send it back. Then out of that, they'll create a bigger translation memory and insert the later the additional PDFs that come into that. Then the TM will go on improving. That must have been the beginning of MTP. And currently what I'm doing is they did send me through a fairly big, long training process as to the punctuation, the capitals, the spaces in between, spaces before and after slashes and dashes, where dashes should be used and where semicolons should be used, where commas should be used. A big big training was there. The language, what they called style guides, they were there. And after each assignment, I used to get my errors and the percentage of my errors, and the percentage tolerated is actually below 1%. So if it is anything like 0.8, 0.8 is worse than 0.4, obviously. So the smaller your percentage is, the better. after about 6 months, they gave me the go ahead, and now I'm doing that MTP job. I do like it quite a bit. Sometimes it's mechanical, sometimes it's quite irritating, but one gets to see a lot of variety in the matter that comes. And as you have mentioned, there must be databases or translation memories relating to various domains. And I am enjoying that rather. I get paid well for it also. And I have done it for general purpose things as well as for engineering. For engineering, of course, the vocabulary is very strict, but the grammatical structure is not very strict. I mean, the stylistic structure is not very strict. But once you follow the rules, you are well. You are accepted as one of them. And but what the guys do there, sitting there as the project managers, it's something I would like to see. Maybe I can go and come and see it in Riyan. Have you been able to hear what I'm saying?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
absolutely, sir. Yeah, yes. Yes, Nikhil. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, I guess yes, that's it from the experience sharing, I guess, from that side. If you want to add something,
Yeah.
Salil.
Yes, Kale sir, thanks a lot for sharing your experiences. So just a quick question, if you have some more time. I mean,
Yeah.
so how was your evaluation process of becoming a post editor, PE? So you said you got a very lengthy, exhaustive style guide, for example. Then was there any training involved, or were there any evaluation? Tests,
Yes,
for example. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. They sent very small files first.
Okay.
First, they sent me only 350 words job to understand whether I know English at all.
Okay.
Then after that, they sent me a file, something like 150 segments.
Right.
Then that was evaluated, and the errors were marked on an Excel sheet as to the grammatical errors, the errors in understanding, errors in all kinds of things. Spelling was, of course, unpardonable, and such things. So gravity of the error was also evaluated, and the overall evaluation was done. After that, then I got a fairly big job in the sense 450 lines, 450 segments.
Right.
Some segments, of course, are only maybe 10 words, 7 words, 10 words, 9 words. Sometimes it's a huge paragraph, something like 250 words. But anyway, it's still one segment. And how I should avoid duplication. If it says, say, Spanish guitar, and say Spanish guitar, Spanish guitars, vagare. Unless it says something different, say electric guitar, then I can add that as a word. But the Spanish guitar and Spanish guitars and Spanish and hyphen guitars is still the same.
Correct.
And where I should put, where I should use capital letters and where not. For example, if it looks like a company name, then it has to be left in capitals. But if it is a product name, then you can use lowercase letters. So these things were there. Then where to put commas and semicolons, and if it's a semicolon, what follows it cannot start with a capital letter. So such simple grammatical rules are also there.
Right.
And then in engineering projects, of course, the vocabulary is usually given along with the thing, because MT takes care of that vocabulary, and the cat on the side also mentions what specific word is given. So you are supposed to use that. So that adherence to that cat given TB term base is also evaluated, whether I'm using that or not. It went on for about 3 months, I would say.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So once the scores were below 1%, then they started giving me. Now the file size has gone up from an average of 350 segments has gone up to about 600.
Okay. Okay.
So that means the confidence in me must have gone up.
Yes, certainly. So that's from German into English, right?
And this was German to English. The engineering part was from Swedish to English.
Swedish to English. Okay. Great.
Mm.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay.
I
Thank
haven't
you.
got from any other language as such.
Okay.
Any other language.
Mhm. I see.
And
Okay.
if you, I think Nikhil asked me about the trend. I think MTP is the trend, and translators would do well to try to understand and accept such jobs, and not put up their noses in the air that I'm not going to do MTP. I'm a pure translator. Uska time abhi the time is over. I think time for pure translators is over. I think.
Yes, absolutely. Great. Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot,
Thank you.
sir. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome,
That was
welcome,
that
welcome.
was that was very insightful. Yes, particularly as sir also said, maybe if I have to put it in a different fashion, this 80-20 rule always, I mean, rules is what I think. 80-20. So what do I mean by that? If you at least master the target language, right, that falls in the 20% of it, and if you keep on doing well in that 20%, then the 80%, rest of the 80% things get taken care of actually most of the times. I mean, may it be the domain thing or may it be the subject matter expertise thing. So all those things get taken care of if you keep on at least following the 20% of the language side. So whatever examples Kales also gave, they fail all on the language side, right? Like punctuation rules and these rules and that rule. So he also said
Correct.
he also said that he was first tested whether he knew English at all. And most of the times, knowing the target language alone will help you a lot actually. So let's focus there. Great, thank you, thanks a lot. And such a veteran translator like Kale sir has also, I mean, now highlighted the importance of this machine translation, right? I mean, PE. So of course, I mean, this is a booming field. So great. From my side also, I'm done, Nikhil. So I pass on the baton back to you. If you
Can I add in a word edgewise?
of course, please. Yes, go ahead.
The empty that is done, that is not necessarily correct. Sometimes it's done bindok. Like sometimes, so you have to keep checking, even if it says 100%, you still have to keep checking whether every single word is correct or not. The machine translation might have gone wrong because two words might mean similar, different things. Similar words might mean different things, or if it comes in a phrase, the machine translation does not understand it.
Right. Yes.
So
absolutely.
the translator still has to be alert.
Yeah. Yes. It's exactly like like putting your plane on autopilot, and so that doesn't mean that pilots can sleep, go back and sleep, right? So it's that actually. So when you can face the turbulence, you never know. So you should be ready for that turbulent weather. That is what P is all about. Yeah. Right. Thank you, sir. Yes. Thanks. So Nikhil. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Salil. And I guess we'll conclude this session now. And we hope everyone enjoyed this session. And we hope everyone will attend future sessions, which will happen every week on same time, same day. We'll keep you all posted. And yes, thank you. Thank you once again. And hope to see you soon in the next week. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Om. Thank you.
Thanks. Great. Thank you.
Thanks.